I'm sure that if you're doing this, or if your kids are doing this, they're going to absolutely love it.
Hello and welcome to Growing Up with Max. As always, what I have ordered and I'm using in this video, I have had ordered to my house to stay well within lines of the provincial guidelines during this COVID-19 crisis. Today I am introducing you to growing mushrooms in your garden and yard. I am going to do this in 2 videos with different techniques and areas that you can grow them. Some of them that I recommend and that I have grown myself are bear's head or cauliflower mushroom, phoenix oyster, blue oyster, turkey tail, lion's mane, shiitake, and wine cap. These are all either local to my area or rated for cold hardy for my area. So that way I can do a log, put it in a shady area, and enjoy it for years to come. I hope you enjoy the next parts of these videos, and at the end of it I'll do a live question and answer period. Thank you very much for your time.
So not everybody's going to be excited about a bunch of bags coming in the mail that look like bags of mold or a science experiment, but I sure am. That's because today I'm going to get started on my mushroom garden expansion and put more edible mushrooms into my garden so I can harvest them with my veggies through the course of the year and save them for the winter as well. So with this video I'm showing you a couple of different types of growing mushrooms, a couple of different ways. The first one is going to be the buckets. Now this is very simple when you're using something that has an aggressive mycelium, such as the blue oyster that we're going to be using today. They'll eat just about anything. As a note, you do have to sterilize all of your substrate, and when you're using a pizza box as part of your substrate, don't put it in the oven. If you do, keep an eye on it and start a fire. Mycelium of the oyster mushroom is very aggressive. It'll eat almost anything. In fact, in here I've got pizza boxes, newspaper, shredded paper, coffee grounds, and aspen wood shavings. So what you're going to do to start with is you're going to sterilize your substrate. Again, the oven, keep an eye on it if you're going to do it. What I suggest is a boiling pot of water. Put your wood shavings, put your shredded paper, your coffee grounds in there. Boil it really well to kill any of the microbes that are in there that might compete with your mushroom. After that, you're going to take everything, put it in one container. We're just going to mix this up. Then we have a good mixture for our substrate, and the mushrooms are going to love it. In my pail, I already have the newspapers, I have some boxes. They'll be fine as they are. You can just add everything to it. So we're going to start by packing in our substrate really well into the buckets. And as we pack it in, make sure we get as much in there as possible, because the more you have, the more your mushrooms are going to eat and the longer they're going to last. Every now and then when you're packing your bucket, grab a handful of inoculated mycelium. In this case I have a sawdust inoculated mycelium. For the oyster mushrooms, I'm just going to drop in while I pack it. A kit will come in a big bag like that, or sometimes a smaller bag. And I got mine in the mail. And sorry, reading on that. Good thing this is getting edited. So your kit's going to come in a bag. It's going to kind of look like a bag of molded sawdust, which is exactly what you want. Your neighbors may wonder what it is when they're looking, but I'm sure that if you're doing this, or if your kids are doing this, they're going to absolutely love it. And you're going to pack your bucket with all your substrate, and you're going to pack your bucket with little bits of your inoculation, just to get it growing and well mixed in there. This stuff's been boiled and all the water drained out of it, so it's nice and moist and ready for our mushrooms to grow. Now, when you're finished packing your bucket, you have lots of substrate and you have lots of materials in there. You're going to want to remember, when you cover it, your mushrooms are still going to want to breathe. As for these mushrooms, they're not very particular on how much air. They grow in logs after all, so they don't need a lot. But just a few holes in the bottom to go around. Allow water to drain. A few holes part way up. These holes are not only going to provide air for the mushrooms to breathe, but that's also where your mushrooms are going to grow out of. And you're going to harvest that. I'd like to mention as well, prior to using these buckets, you're going to want to sterilize them, same as your substrate. What I use to sterilize, and what's recommended by a lot of people, is an alcohol. So you get liquid alcohol like isopropanol. You're going to put that in a rag, wipe it out really well, and make sure you kill anything that's in there, again, that might conflict with your mycelium from your mushrooms. Hello and welcome back. Now we're done with our mushroom pail. We can put a lid on it and put it aside, somewhere we can watch it and watch our mycelium grow. Within a couple of months, we'll have mushrooms coming out, and we'll be able to enjoy them in our garden or in a shady area of your yard. Another idea with mushroom buckets would to be use a decorative planter, in which case you can do the same kind of thing, disinfect it really well with isopropanol, get your medium, put it in, and get your mycelium into it, and have that in your garden. Next, we're moving on to mushroom logs. Mushroom logs are different. They produce according to a number of different things. The size of the log, the type of mushroom you're putting in, and as well the weather in your area. All these mushrooms that I'm growing are native to this area and cold rated for here in the foothills as well as anywhere else in Canada. So you can enjoy this wherever you are in Alberta for growing. What we're going to start with is what we need. We have a drill, a mallet for putting in our plugs. We have plugs for putting into our log, and hot wax for sealing the plugs in so it holds the precious moisture in there and our myceliums can grow. What you're going to start out by doing is drilling holes into your log anywhere from 5 to 8 inches apart, which is pretty simple. Drill your holes to about the depth of your plug so you can put them in and seal them with wax. I pre-drilled my holes because the wax does solidify very quickly as it's outside in the cold. Next, you're going to take your plugs in your bag, and your mallet, you're going to tap them in. All the holes that you just made. Doing your best to make sure they're just slightly below the surface of the log. This will give the plug and the mycelium that's in it stays in contact with the log, and it'll start growing inside. You're going to take your hot wax and your paintbrush. You're just going to dab a little bit where your plug is to seal it. I'm going to finish up with this log, and I'm going to show you another neat thing that you can do with what's left over after you've done your plugs. As we finish with each row, we're going to take our wax and again seal our plugs inside. Once you finish your first row, you are going to rotate your log to about 5 inches away where you have the next row drilled. And again, we're going to be putting plugs in all the holes that we've drilled and sealing them with wax. Your rows, just like your plugs, will be about 5 inches apart, going around the log, ensuring that you get good coverage and the mycelium will then get a chance to grow in your log. You may notice when you're done with your plugs, you're going to have some bits and pieces left in your bag. This is sawdust or grain that was used to originally inoculate the plugs so that they were ready to get planted. Rather than wasting this, what I have done is built a little grow bag. Being that lion's mane likes your aspens, poplars, birch, any of that kind of thing, what I've put in this grow bag is some shredded paper, some aspen trimmings, and some coffee grounds. All of that should be a really good home for the mycelium to grow. As well, when you do a grow bag, you're going to want to find a little piece of a filter. Cut a hole in the bag and tape it in place to allow it to grow and to breathe. The hole will stop anything from leaking out. Once you cut holes for it to pin and fruit outside of it. We're going to take all these bits and we're going to make sure we get them into our bag. Once you have your bits in there, make sure you mix it up really well so that there's a good distribution. Your mycelium can grow and produce you more mushrooms with something that would normally just go to waste. Tie your bag off. And this one, keep an eye on it, I'm going to put under my sink, just like I would in the wintertime. Because then, if you have mushrooms growing in a bag under your sink, you have the opportunity to harvest fresh mushrooms all winter long. Hello and welcome back. Now that we're finished our mushroom pail, we can cover it with a lid and put it somewhere we'll keep watching it on it. The lid... Okay.
Alright, hey Max. So we are now live. So we just did your mushroom video right there. I have some questions for you. First of all, you got these mushrooms in the mail. How much does a bag cost? How much would it cost to grow those mushrooms?
That would be according to what mushrooms you are ordering, what style you're ordering. What I have here, and I've ordered, are different inoculation bags, like a large bag like this. This is what I'm going to use for inoculating my mulch in my side garden. So I have wine caps growing beside my house and in between my garden beds. And the interesting thing about the wine cap mushroom is that they'll actually eat the little nanotubes that are in your soil. Some of them are parasitic and some of them will affect your vegetables. So by putting this in with the mulch, it'll grow, and then beyond eating those, you'll have edible mushrooms coming out of the waste and space that you're normally walking on. You can still walk on these areas as well, but you're going to see after a rainstorm or after you water it very heavily, mushrooms coming up that you're going to be able to eat. A bag like that costs $20. And then you get smaller bags. This one's from Grow Mushrooms Canada. And this one will inoculate about 7 or 8 logs like you saw in my video. And these ones again are going to cost about $16 or $15 when you order them on their site. As well, I ordered from All Those Mushrooms Canada, and they're on Pinterest in a couple of different areas. And a large bag like this cost me $45, and that's enough to do about 40 or 50 logs. And this is my this will be my blue oyster mushrooms, which is what I recommend for my beginners. Would be an oyster mushroom. Blue oyster is good for your anything like a poplar or birch or anything your leafy. And then the Phoenix oyster mushrooms, which I ordered as well, is good for your spruce trees. Now there's mixed reviews on it will be good for this area. I ordered it just to try out. And you can keep tuned to my channel to find out if they do grow for me in the next couple of years.
Excellent, Max. And so $45 of the mycelium there, how much would that, so it's going to harvest food, how much would those mushrooms cost you that it's going to harvest? So what would be the ultimate cost of those mushrooms if you were going to buy them from the shop, saving, doing all of the work that you're doing right now? How much do you think you would yield from that $40 bag compared to how much it would cost you in the store?
That $40 bag, you could really get an endless supply of mushrooms. So you have the work to do your first logs, and they're going to bloom for you the year after. And then afterwards, you're going to cut fresh logs and put them under your logs that are already blooming. And as the one starts blooming, it'll inoculate the one below it naturally. And you just keep going that way. It's going to last. You'll have an endless supply of mushrooms. According to how many logs you can have, a 20-pound harvest or a 5-pound harvest, you're going to get about 2 or 3 pounds per log that you inoculate, pending the size, and the length of time for them to grow is also pending the size. But really, it'll be endless for you. Now, these mushrooms at the store are going to cost you anywhere from $2 a pound to $8 a pound. So really, what you're buying is way less and way better than buying at the store, because as well, you're going through the wood.
And the wood has a lot more natural microbes in it and natural nutrients, whereas one thing you buy at the store, a lot of time are growing in straw, which won't have nearly as many nutrients.
Wow, that's excellent information. So buy this bag, they'll harvest year after year. I think your microphone's just a little bit low there, Max. It might not have been put up after you came off the unmute. But buy it after year. So $45, it's going to give you pretty much endless mushrooms year after year.
Exactly. And for beginners,
There
I
you
do
are.
suggest. Is that a lot better? Sorry about that. For beginners, I do suggest for your logs, you start with the different oyster mushrooms that are available. They're the most aggressive mycelium. They are less likely to have problems from mold or other funguses attacking them. If you're doing it in your beds, you're looking at wine caps, which is very aggressive as well. And the wine caps will go in and eat your leaves, your mushroom mulch, your mushroom chips, anything like that, as long as you have a little bit of soil mixed in with it and between your beds. So now you're doubling your area for suppressing weeds as well as producing mushrooms.
Fantastic. That information is great. Thank you. I have a question from Jennifer Hislop. This is your wife. She's asking, are those my good bowls? Question mark.
Probably are. I'll have to wash them and put them back in.
And this is one thing that you may want to avoid, ladies and gentlemen, if you're planting your garden, is that if you are taking your partner's favorite cookware or cutlery or whatever it may be, make sure A, they don't know about it, B, you're not doing a live video, and C, you wash them and put them back without them actually knowing, because you could end up, like Max, in a lot of trouble. for doing that kind of thing. And obviously, Max, we're going to be doing a lot more live videos. Lots more people are going to have questions as this comes. But the basic principle of what you're trying to do here is to show people that A, you can grow your own food. B, you can grow it all year round inside, which we're going to come to in future videos. And C, you don't need to be reliant on the grocery stores. We've seen now over this past few weeks, as COVID-19 has ravaged the world, the grocery stores being almost in pandemonium, people fighting over toilet rolls, people fighting over food. You go to the grocery store today, you're still seeing empty shelves because people are continuing to panic buy. But you're not panicked. You're not worried about this. You've been doing this for years, so you're not worried at all about having to go to the grocery because you know you can almost sustain yourself from your home. Correct?
I do need to say, I was coming home from work here a few weeks ago, and I'm seeing all these videos of everyone panicking and looking for food and grocery stores empty. And on my way home, I was sitting there thinking, well, what do I really need? I have a cold room and a root cellar full of vegetables. I have items in my deep freeze I purchased before any of this happened. Really, I already had the food that I needed. And going into it, I'm sitting here watching people terrified about how they're going to get their fresh produce to be able to supply their families and their children with a healthy nutrition. I'm thinking, well, why would I don't have to worry. Why do I want others to worry? So by doing this, I'm trying to promote others to start growing their own food, because what we can do with this is now supply ourselves and supply our families. And that being said, you have, let's say, even 15% of our population supplying their families with their own food out of their backyard. That takes a lot of stress off the grocery stores as well. Our shipping from the U.S. and from B.C. could be compromised with this pandemic. Well, it's not going to affect those 15% that have their food, but at the same time, the rest of us will have less worry about getting food because more people are producing it themselves. As well, if you're in a situation now where you're a stay-at-home parent because of this situation, maybe you grow a huge excess. You can now donate that food to the food banks or deliver it to people in need like I do, or even sell it for an extra income for your family.
And this is at a time when our food supplies are not strained. They're telling us there is no instability in the food lines that are coming into the shops, yet people still panicked. Imagine if this was a pandemic where that food was compromised and it was in scarce supply, and all of a sudden we went to rationing. Well, I think it's very important that you grow your own food. This really shows how weak our society is when it comes to getting food. And it shows that our frontline workers, how important those shopkeepers are, how important the guys and gals at the tills that are checking your food out are. It's really brought into focus who are doing the important jobs in society today. And suddenly, if they become ill or unable to do their job, you can't just throw people in to do the stocking of shelves. I mean, they're trained to do that. They're trained to use the checkouts. They have to go through checks to make sure they're handling money, security checks, and you just can't replace those people as easily as others may think. So those people that have those fancy cars and fancy houses, they're pretty reliant on these individuals in the store, and I think it's important to show them a lot of respect at this time. I know I was out shopping yesterday for essentials because you're going to make me self-sustainable as we go through this channel, and I'm looking forward to that, and showing people what's possible out here where I am as well. But you're actually showing people how to become self-sustaining in their own home with not a very big garden, just even a small garden. They can grow their own food.
Exactly, and if I can do it up in the foothills where I still have snow and frost well into late June, and they start sometimes end of August and beginning of September, other people in Alberta, by watching my videos and seeing what techniques I use, you can have much larger harvests and grow even more food. So you don't need the space that I do. You don't need to take the extreme steps I do. I take these steps, and many people in this country do, anywhere from the northern reaches of this country to other areas in the foothills, even Calgary. We compare Calgary to Saskatchewan. Much shorter growing season and much cooler nights makes it much more difficult.
Yes, absolutely. I think that is so important. This is also about growing that food in areas that may not, or you may not think is a prime place to grow food for, but it's amazing what our planet can harvest for us. Okay, Max, I think that wraps up our video. Is there anything else you want to say about the mushrooms? We're going to be doing more on them, of course, but is there anything that you want to point out to people? I mean, maybe how hard this is. You were drilling some holes, apart from setting the pizza boxes on fire, of course.
Yeah. Well, this is very easy to do. Once you have it started, you just pretty well have to ignore it. Everything I do is simple. I know that Dreamscapes, who's a local company here to the Diamond Valley area, has helped supply me with some of these logs. They do arborist for your trees and yard work, and I'd like to thank them for helping me. And the next one, I'll show people in detail how to get wine caps into the mulches between their raised beds and into their compost, doubling their food potential by using that wasted space, as well as the shady areas of the house that you really can't grow anything.
Awesome. Thank you, Max, and thank you everybody for watching. Of course, when we start these things, we had a couple of technical errors, but we'll be fixing those as we go. I think some of them was down to YouTube having issues with their live system still. They had an outage yesterday. But again, make sure that you subscribe to our channel of how to grow food, and you're going to be watching more episodes of Growing Up with Max. It's going to be an exciting channel. You're going to want to see us develop our skill and talent, and also eventually you're going to have me learning how to garden. Never thought it was going to happen, but now I've seen the panic in the supermarkets. It's super important to learn from people like Max. So hit that subscribe button, and we'll be seeing you all soon.